Now, during an interview with the FBI agents who were executing the warrant, Bahi stated in some substance and part that he had used the Bahi cell phone as his personal cell phone for approximately the last few months. Stated he was planning to travel to Egypt that evening. Man, he was about to get out of here. The Signal application was deleted from the cell phone sometime between approximately midnight and shortly after 6 a.m. when the cell phone was seized. When agents asked him when that day he had deleted Signal, he said, "I'm not going to disclose when he deleted it." The Southern District of New York arrested another one from Mayor Adams' administration. His name is Mohamed Bahi, who got arrested for the destruction of evidence. And when we read through Mayor Adams' original indictment, we saw that, according to the government, somebody went into a bathroom, got on their cell phone, and started deleting a bunch of materials. Apparently, it was this guy. And so he was in court today. This is a photograph of him and Mayor Adams, Mohamed Bahi, and he was formerly working with Mayor Adams. Inner City Press was there at the scene today. He was deleting his Signal messages and he got busted. So FBI director was out. They say from 2022 to 2024, he was working for Adams, and then he was involved in a fundraiser and more. Here is the sealed complaint, not an indictment like we've seen in other matters, but prosecutors are Celia Cohen, Rohrbach, Scotton, and Wickstrom. And the first count is witness tampering. Wow. On June 2024 of this year, he met with 5 potential witnesses and directed them to law enforcement. We'll see what the counts are. Here's the background. So count 2 is destruction of records. He deleted the encrypted messaging application Signal from his cell phone once they arrived to execute a search warrant. Oh no. So here's how it went down. This guy, I'm special agent of the FBI. I've been personally involved in investigating this matter. Now, this affidavit is based upon my personal participation, and I might supplement this as needed. From approximately 2022 through the present, Mohamed Bahi worked as a senior liaison to Mayor Adams. Beginning at least in or about 2018, Adams campaigned to be the mayor. In 2020, Bahi solicited campaign contributions for the campaign. Now, since in or about 2021, the FBI and the DOI have been investigating the receipt of so-called straw contributions by Adams. A straw contribution to a political campaign is a contribution that is made in the name of one donor for which the donated funds, in fact, came from a different person. The knowing solicitation and acceptance of this can violate laws, and I investigate this. Now, as explained in greater detail, Mohamed Bahi, the defendant, was involved in organizing a fundraiser for Adams. FBI was investigating, and he obstructed our investigation. So here's what the agent says. All right, based on my review of the court records, I know, among other things, the following. On December 10, 2020, 4 individuals, each person was a donor. They were all associated with a construction company. They got contribution cards for each of the donors. They were submitted to the campaign. Each of the donors' contribution cards listed the construction company as the employer. A 5th person also contributed to Adams, also with a contribution card. He listed himself and his position as president of the company. Now, he knows that this guy, this 5th person, is the founder and the president of the company. Now, each of the 4 donors and the businessman all contributed $2,000 by check. All 5 of those cards submitted by the donors had matching pre-typed information, including the recipient, the names, and the addresses of the donors. So somebody filled them all out. They looked identical. Each of the 5 cards contained a signature on a line reading contributor signature. Above the line, each contribution card stated, "I understand that these are my funds. I confirm I was not reimbursed by anybody for this." Guess what? I have reviewed text messages from the accounts, and based what I have seen, the FBI agent says the following. On November 19, 2020, a telephone number saved to businessman's phone contacts as a variant of the name of Mohamed Bahi. He texted him. Construction guy sends Adams aide. He says, "Hey, Thursday, 7 p.m. your office. Private fundraiser and dinner for Adams." So then Bahi says, "Okay, he moved it to tomorrow to 5 p.m. Is that okay?" He said, "Yeah, that's actually even better." Then another text. Bahi sent him a text. "Hey, I'm coming now. I think he's about 15 minutes away." Less than 10 minutes later, Bahi texted him, said he's outside, bringing him in. So bringing Adams in. Law enforcement has interviewed each of the donors and the businessmen. Based on my participation in some of those interviews and my discussion with other law enforcement agents who also participated in those interviews, I know, among other things, multiple witnesses confirmed the following. The donors and the businessmen attended a fundraiser in 21 at the headquarters of the construction company. Adams showed up. Mohammed, the defendant, organized and and attended the fundraiser and suggested the businessman should reimburse donations by his employees. Each of the donors made straw contributions. Each of their $2,000 was reimbursed by the construction company. Busted. Then there was witness tampering. On or about June 13th, in connection with the federal investigation, FBI agents then executed a search warrant. They went to his house, served him with a subpoena issued by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. Around the same time the search warrant was executed, FBI agents also approached each of the 4 donors with subpoenas issued by a grand jury and attempted to interview them. Got them all same time. Based on my participation in certain interviews, my discussion with others, I have learned the following. On June 13th, the businessman called Mohamed and said, "The FBI raided my home." Then, on June 13th in the afternoon, Bahi went to the offices of the construction company where he met privately with businessmen. Then he met with the 4 donors. Like, oh crap, they raided you? We got to talk. During the meeting between Bahi and businessmen on or about June 13th, Bahi told the businessman, "I just talked to Adams." He asked the businessman to describe his interactions with the FBI after the businessman told Bahi that the businessman had denied having funded straw donations. When questioned by the FBI, Bahi then advised the businessman that if he continued to tell that lie to federal investigations, that he would be okay. Okay, great. That's what you told him? Okay, just keep telling him that. Then he met with the businessman and the 4 donors. He asked each of them to describe their interactions with the FBI. He took photographs of the grand jury subpoenas that had been served on them. During the meeting, the businessman and the 4 donors, Bahi encouraged the donors to lie to federal investigators by denying they'd made the donations and remarked that because the donors' contributions had been reimbursed in cash, the FBI would be unable to prove that anything had happened. Then Bahi again met with the businessman. During that meeting, he indicated to him that Bahi had met with Adams and that Adams believed that the construction guy would not cooperate with law enforcement. Now, FBI agent says, based on my training and experience, I know about this application called Signal. It's an encrypted messaging application that allows users to automatically delete messages at certain intervals. Based on my involvement in open source information, I know that Adams used Signal to communicate and sometimes encouraged others to do so, and that people who, like Mohamed and the defendant worked for him, also used Signal. Now, on July 24th, in connection with the FBI investigation, agents executed a search warrant at his home. Based on my discussion with the agents who participated in the search, I've discussed and learned the following. At 6 a.m., FBI agents began knocking on the door of his home. They started calling a phone number known to be his to say, "We're here to execute a search warrant." No one answered the door. Bahi did not answer multiple calls from the agents. So then they called his spouse. She lives at the home, former spouse, who still lives there. She answered the phone. Agents identified themselves as federal agents, told her that they were at the door, they wanted to speak with him. Bahi and the former spouse initially claimed not to be home. Eventually, she came to the door, but refused to open it. So sometime after Bahi's former spouse came to the door, Bahi himself came to the door. They let the FBI into his home to execute the search warrant. Once agents were inside executing the warrant, an agent mentioned to Bahi that the agent had repeatedly called, hey man, I've been calling you all morning. This prompted Bahi to take a cell phone out of his pocket, which the agent then seized pursuant to a warrant. Thus, Bahi had uninhibited access to a cell phone between learning that the FBI were present at his home and the FBI entering the home. Now, during an interview with the FBI agents who were executing the warrant, Bahi stated in some substance and part that he had used the Bahi cell phone as his personal cell phone for approximately the last few months. Stated he was planning to travel to Egypt that evening. Man, he was about to get out of here. Based on my review of information from the forensic extraction of the cell phone, which was performed after the cell phone was seized, I have learned, among other things, that Signal was not on the cell phone at the time it was forensically searched. Activity logs for the cell phone indicate, however, that the cell phone had been used to access the Signal application as approximately 12:04, the same day that his home was searched and his cell phone was seized. In other words, the Signal application was deleted from the cell phone sometime between approximately midnight and shortly after 6 a.m. when the cell phone was seized. In the afternoon, FBI agents called Mohamed, the defendant, to ask him follow-up questions about the cell phone. I participated in that call along with other agents. During the call, he admitted that he had recently deleted the Signal application. When agents asked him when that day he had deleted Signal, he said, "I'm not going to disclose when he deleted it." During the interview, he then claimed that he had a practice of deleting applications that were suspicious before traveling internationally. Yeah, in case he was questioned by authorities during that travel. That statement appears to be false, okay? From my review of travel records, I learned that he traveled to Egypt already, back in February, returning to New York, and based on my review, I know that he did not delete Signal Signal on that trip. He used Signal on that trip, and he sent messages to Adams via Signal on that trip. And specifically, the Bahi cell phone contains a screenshot of messages that they exchanged while he was in Egypt and Yemen. And it also has metadata that shows he took it during the trip. And so therefore, I, Jacob, Federal Bureau of Investigation Special Agent, do believe that there is enough cause here to arrest and issue a warrant for Bahi, Mohamed Bahi, and the courts obviously have done that. And so he has been arrested. He was brought into court.
Mr. Bahi, did Mayor Adams tell you, how do you plan to plead?
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so not super eventful day, but there were some proceedings that took place. You can see inner city press was there, and he was brought into court whispering with his lawyer. The judge walks in. All rise. Please be seated. Deputy says, okay, Your Honor, presenting here Mohamed Bahi. The defense attorney says, Your Honor, I'm only on this for this presentment. So defense attorney is just handling this. Judge says, time of arrest today, 6:20 a.m. All right, Mr. Bahi, you're charged with obstruction of justice and destruction of records in connection with the alleged straw donations to a candidate for mayor. You do have retained counsel for today. Have you reviewed the complaint? He says yes. All right, because this is a complaint, you have the right to a preliminary hearing. We'll set a date in a bit, but now we're going to address if you can be released. Prosecutors, what's your position? Your Honor, we propose release on a $250,000 bond that's co-signed by two financially responsible people, and we want pretrial conditions with the exception of condition 5. And we want no contact with co-conspirators or witnesses, in this case, outside the presence of counsel. Is that acceptable to the defense? Yeah, Your Honor, that's fine with us. Okay. Well, these terms are acceptable to the court, Mr. Bahi. You will be released on those terms. If you fail to appear or violate conditions, a warrant will be issued for your arrest. The bond must be bail, and you'll be charged for bail jumping. You understand? Yes, sir. All right. Nothing further? Okay, we're adjourned. And that's the day in court. So another New York official arrested, criminally charged. And the question is, what was on that cell phone that he was deleting? What was he doing back and forth in Egypt? More will be revealed. We'll be covering it. Thanks for joining and subscribing as we do.